Alright guys, give me one sec. Just need to set up some videos. Alright, let me switch over. Let's do window capture. Sick. Alright, cool. Alright, so I'm going to go over some matches from this last weekend tournament at Coral Sword, specifically regarding Houston player and Necro main, and I guess sometimes Elena main, Elena secondary, brother Nero. I issued a challenge to him this season. It's a very simple challenge. He's got to meet one of 3 requirements to complete the challenge. Either he's got to beat Big Mark in tournament, he's got to beat Jay Win in tournament, or he's got to get a top 3 finish at a Game of Dreams tournament for season 2. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and get started and watch this first video. So he's going to start off Elena versus Hugo. As I mentioned in the commentary, this is a really rough matchup for Hugo, particularly if he's using Gigas. It's not easy to land this on Elena in general, since she's got a lot of moves that render her airborne. Her overhead special, her back and forward roundhouse, universal overhead, and then in general she's just jumping a lot because she's got really good jump in normals and target combos. So, you know, she's got medium punch and heavy punch, light kick into medium kick. She's got even combos, target combos on the ground. And then her jump in roundhouse could be 2 hits depending on how you space it. So it's kind of difficult for Hugo to deal with, since he doesn't really have a true anti-air to deal with all of those things. He's either has to parry or kind of anticipate the jump and hope that he catches her before the startup of her normals with a backbreaker. In general though, you know, Hugo with SA3 kind of has some options. He can punish her a little harder. He can play footsies a little better, since his claps now have a threatening super behind them if he confirms them or counter hits something. So, you know, in that regard, Elena does have to respect it. He can also punish a lot of unsafe things that Elena does with super. And then, you know, it makes him more of a threat all around offensively. Since you do have to respect the super and you have to respect his footsies a little more. So let's go ahead and get started and see. We're going to have first player Adrian, aka MtnDewFKR, rocking Hugo, SA1, and then Henry doing Elena with SA1. So off the bat, it looks like they're doing a button test. Okay, yeah, it was a button test. We're playing this on Super Guns. For anyone interested in that, a dark soft one. But that is going to be the matchup: SA1 Elena versus SA1 Hugo. Now, in general, there's a couple things that can happen here at the beginning of the round. Obviously, you know, Elena has some pretty far-reaching attacks, as does Hugo. Hugo has stand strong, crouch forward, and trying to think anything else. Maybe even like low short or low jab. Those options will kind of counter hit things sometimes. Elena has, you know, towards roundhouse, towards forward, or down forward sweep, which is the slide that she can do. And then she also has the ability to just go straight into a special, right? In general, like, you know, you kind of want to just get a feel for how people are going to play it. If Hugo predicts that Elena's going to do the slide, he can try and counter hit with low strong or low forward to hit her out of the startup. But if you know, if it trades, or if you know, the attacks overlap, the priority system takes effect, and the slide will beat the medium, since it's a heavy attack. In general, Hugo doesn't want to be put in the corner, so it's probably best to just kind of press forward here at this point, and maybe walk and block or walk and parry if you can react fast enough to whatever attack she does. So let's see what Adrian does here. Okay, so he just jumped right on in, and the first thing I wanted to point out is this anti-air that he did. He did it preemptively. I don't know if that was a bait or he was building meter or what have you, but that right there, her standing medium punch, is a 2-hit normal, where the first hit is actually cancelable. The second hit is not cancelable, so you can only cancel off the first hit, and it's a very quick 2-hit normal, so you don't have a lot of time to cancel. It is kind of a wonky anti-air in the sense of if they don't know that it's 2 hits and they only go for the first parry, the second hit is pretty fast, so it will hit them out of whatever they're trying to do. There, I don't think that was a safe normal, and I think optimally, Hugo, instead of going for regular throw, you kind of want to go for SPD in that sense, because you get a lot more damage. But he throws her halfway across the screen. Henry opts to wake up with fierce uppercut, or I'm sorry, not fierce, but roundhouse uppercut, since they're using kicks. That has absolutely no invincibility at all, so you can hit her out of the startup if you do a proper meaty. So right here, Elena's only real like cancelable normal is going to be her low strong, which is her low medium punch, and that's going to be this button right there. That button can be parried both high and low, and if if you're just blocking, she can cancel into any of her specials from it. But particularly, Elena's like to go for the EX overhead. I forget what the name of this move is, but this overhead wheel kick that she does is it can be kind of tricky. If you're not used to defending against it or parrying it, then it looks a lot faster than it actually is. But I wanted to point out, it's kind of hard because of the frames. Let's see if I can get it right. Before she actually lands from that attack, before that attack actually lands, dude, that was so fast. Let's see. One low strong, there it is. Before that attack actually lands, I mean, it might not be the case with EX, but with all of the other versions, the heavy, the mid, and the light version, that move is actually trip guardable. You can actually hit her out of it before you get hit. So if you throw a low forward, a low short, something that is a true low, that will hit people if they're crouching, if you throw that normal out at like right before she lands and she lands on top of it while it's active, you will actually hit her out of this. The EX, that might not be the case for. You might actually just trade. Another thing that you can do is you can outright just hit her out of the startup of it. It's not actually active until she's coming down with that last part of it. And it's always 2 hits. The parry timing varies depending on which version she does. It's actually not too bad to red parry too. You can kind of block one hit and then go for the red parry on the other, and you don't really lose a lot from that. She can't combo off of it unless you're crouching. So unless you went for a red parry crouching, she doesn't get anything off of a missed red parry attempt. If you're standing blocking it, you have the reactions to stand block it, and then you go for the red parry on the second attempt. You can get a Gigas, you can get a super, you can back throw her, or not back throw her, but you can do the move where you throw her against the wall and then go for backbreaker follow up. So that way she's closer to the corner. You have lots of options here. Jab super if you have SA3. Maybe even enough for a clap, but I'm not sure that you have enough time for that. So here Hugo uses his one of his better pokes. I believe that's low strong. Yeah, low strong is really good. Stand fierce for Elena can be used as an anti-air. It's kind of weird how it hits, but if you catch people at the right angle, it can be good catching them on the way up or catching them on the way back. Actually, if someone tries to jump back, sometimes that normal will clip them depending on how big their hurt box is or hitbox, and depending on the character that is. Obviously it works on the bigger hitbox characters a little more. Let's keep it going. There's that roundhouse that I would just want to highlight the roundhouse real quick. Right there. That move is technically considered airborne, and Hugo can air throw it. So if you are close enough and you know that an Elena is going to do back or forward roundhouse on you as a meaty, you can if the move isn't actually hitting you as you're waking up and it's still in that airborne state, you can actually reversal backbreaker on your wake up and grab her out of it. So she actually will get thrown out of that since she's technically airborne. But the same is true the other way around. If you go for SPD or if you go for Wake Up Gigas and she does that roundhouse, since she is airborne, she's going to hit you out of it because she can't be grabbed while she's in the air. This sweep actually wasn't too bad of an idea. It was just way too early. So one thing Hugos like to do a lot is they like to do jump in body splash or jump in roundhouse or jump in whatever button, fierce or something, right? I think the only button that might hit that would be jump in medium kick, his forward. But if you time it right and you do the sweep, since it's so low to the ground, it will trip guard any of their attacks that aren't, I believe, a late jump in forward. But particularly Splash and Fierce, it will hit because his lower hitbox is really vulnerable when he does those moves. Even really late Splash, this will counter hit. So if you anticipate that he's going to do a really late splash, so let's say he's been empty jumping at you and doing super late splash or SPD, right, and that's the mix up, the way to deal with that entirely is just maybe this sweep option, or maybe even a normal into something random, some random special. And there's that medium kick that I was talking about. That was smart from Adrian to recognize that he could punish with that. See, it hits really late and it hits at just the right angle. And there's that move not being active, even though it looks like it is. This overhead, even though, well, actually, I think he whiffed it. He whiffed both hits of that, so it was a little too early. Throws him to the back corner, which isn't bad. Wake Up EX, gets the hell out of there. That was smart. Now he's just got to build meter. But one thing that I want Henry to take note of is you do want to put some distance between you and Hugo, and you want to build meter. But one thing that you don't want to do, give me one sec, guys. Yeah, one thing that you don't want to do while you're doing this is put yourself in the corner. That's precisely what most opponents want. It is a lot easier to pressure and kill a cornered opponent than it is one mid-screen, particularly for a character like Hugo, whose corner Oki is very strong. This just looks like matchup unfamiliarity. It looks like Adrian went to parry all of it, or maybe he thought the move was over already, but this is one of those moves that has like an extra rep after it looks like it's done. So maybe he went for red parry, or maybe he just wasn't anticipating that it was going to go that long, but that move is super negative on block, and you can punish with all sorts of things, SPD being probably the best punish in this situation. He's got the stun, did the roundhouse uppercut to get the most meter in that situation. So Henry's sitting in a good position here. He's got about half a bar. I like the choice of SA1 for Elena in this matchup because you can kind of force Hugo to jump at you, and SA1 is a very good anti-air super. It's got a really good arc on it, and it hits at just angle to make parrying it kind of difficult. It's not like most of the Shoryuken supers where it comes down and like it does a rep and then it comes down and there's enough time to land and block, and then it goes to the rest of the reps and they can just block. This one's kind of weird, and maybe we'll get to see that later on in the set. I can show you guys what I'm talking about. So I think, I'm not entirely sure, but I think at this angle, that might be SPD punishable. Oh no, probably not. And again, that move does look like it should hit the overhead special that he does here, but Hugo was able to just jump right out of the way. His character actually kind of just jumped right through her leg. I like the cross-up splash, low short. You can actually combo that if you have meter into... if you can get the low short to combo from the cross-up splash, you can get EX Lariat right after. You cancel low short into EX Lariat and that all combos. Nice clap pressure. And that was fucking sick. Look at this, dude. Adrian. Spacing. He moved back just enough because he knows that Henry wants to jump out of the corner. Moved out of the way of those normals, and then just waited for Henry to land and went straight into SPD. That's so sick. What a punish. So gets the punish. Elena's close to stun here. Not blocking that second hit. There's that move again. It looks like he might be going for red parries actually. And there's that sweep that I was talking about. Down forward sweep. You see how far it covers? That distance is hella long. Basically where that first little smoke cloud is, or dust cloud, is where it starts up. And then it covers all the way until it hits at that specific spot. Now, this is why I like SA3, Hammer Mountain, in this matchup as opposed to SA1. If you land this, that's a super. If you land it at that depth, it doesn't even matter the distance. If you land it at that depth from, well, maybe not, you know, too far, but from this distance, you can just go straight into super. You hold the button for like a split second so you can get to where he needs to get to, and then that first hit comes out instantaneously. As soon as you let that button go, that first hit comes out. So you see this super is not like the regular Shoryuken supers. It's pretty fast as far as hits, and then it just kind of keeps going. But it does have the same style as the other Shoryuken supers, where it hits in cycles of 3. So she does 3 reps just like the others. Oh, right here, this first jump in, if it was a splash, that would have been so sick. Or I don't even think that you necessarily need to do that. He probably could have just empty jumped. This towards forward was gonna whiff, and then you can just Gigas on land. No, and unfortunately that was just a little too early. So one of the unfortunate things is you do have to kind of time when they're gonna land for the Gigas to catch them if you're doing an anti-air Gigas. And in this particular case, Elena hadn't quite landed yet when it was active. So it's kind of a situation where you have to judge that that distance between her and the ground a little better. If he had done it maybe a second later, this definitely would have hit. But yeah, she was able to jump out immediately because she was still airborne when that started. So that's a really good poke from Adrian there. Hugo's low forward, you know, it causes knockdown, and it gives them the ability to dash in and, you know, cover that space, close the distance a little bit more. That was a little random there. Ooh. And look at this. Hugo's hitbox is so large. This traditionally will not cross up on most characters in the corner. But because Hugo's hitbox is so large, he got hit by the back end of Elena's jump roundhouse, which allowed him to cross him up. This move, I don't know why Henry's using it at all. This move, the EX version in particular, you don't want to use outside of combos. Unless you're, you know, punishing something with low strong into it, you should never use this move, ever. It is extremely punishable, extremely negative, and if you're not getting follow-ups off of it, there's absolutely no reason to use it. So the only instance in which you should use this special, particularly the EX version, but in general, the only reason why you should use this is for combos. So if you're doing low strong and you don't have meter and you want to do, you know, a decent meterless punish, I would tell you to just go for uppercut if that will connect. If it won't connect, and the regular version of Spin Scythe, I think only the light and the mid will work off of low strong. I don't know if the fierce version or the roundhouse version will, but yeah, in general, don't use this outside of combos. Or unless you're trying to chip. Chip might be good too, since it has an awkward parry timing. And Henry seems to be using this stand strong as meter building normal. Crouch strong is better for that. There's that low strong. So this is something that is really kind of a pet peeve of mine, but it's something that I've been working on myself. When you have an opponent cornered and you know they're close to dying, he has no meter, he has to do something to try and force it. You're sitting on a full bar. Basically, the advantage is totally in Hugo's favor right now. Hugo doesn't have to give Elena anything. He doesn't have to close this out. He doesn't have to do anything. You've got 55 seconds left on the clock, and you own most of the screen. You have a full bar. She has nothing, and she's about to die. In this situation, it's incumbent upon Henry to try and make things happen, right? Because he has every incentive to try and close that gap and try and make this comeback. But for Adrian, he doesn't need to do anything. His best option, honestly, is to sit there and react to things and just play patiently. Wait for your opponent to, initiate, try and react appropriately. In this case, Elena dashed in. You might have been able to jab her or low short, or buffer low parry in this instance. He did a low strong, which is smart. Puts her back in the corner, and this is where you just basically should stay. Sit right here in this one spot, and she cannot escape. She is forced to deal with Hugo at this range. Or she's forced to sit there and wait for the time to run out. And if Hugo, gets impatient and, doesn't feel like, I don't want to wait here and let her build another bar, that's completely fine. What is she going to do with that bar? She doesn't really have much of an option with that bar. Especially since you're in the final round of this match. So let her get that bar. Just sit there, let the opponent, initiate, and then react to whatever they're doing. There, that empty jump is kind of tricky, but I think he could have trip guarded here. Yeah, she did a button in the air. Where is it? Oh no, she didn't. Oh no, yeah, and this move right here, unless you're doing Gigas, that move is not unsafe. So the punish here would be Gigas. I'm pretty sure, but we'll look at the frame data after this. Did the uppercut, and then there's that. So one thing that Mark pointed out, I was like, oh no, he has to deal with that. He has to parry this. That's my mentality, right? Is you gotta parry this, right? But she's at a range where if Hugo does Gigas, I'm pretty sure he can grab her out of that. So if Mark pointed out correctly, if he does a reversal or a wake up 720, which is invulnerable on startup, it will punish this this move that she does here, and then he doesn't have to deal with that at all. That was actually a mistake on Henry's part to do that move there, because if the Hugo had realized that, he would have lost the match. But fortunately, the unfamiliarity paid off for Henry there, and he was able to beat Adrian. So let's move it along. Now they're sitting on Henry's sitting on a 1-game lead, and again Adrian chooses to go with Hugo SA1. So I wanted to point out that stand strong. Remember earlier I said, there's buttons that you can start off a match with that will immediately affect your opponent. Hugo stand strong, as you can see, is one of them. The last time they started a match, Elena did stand strong, and Hugo jumped. So this time, anticipating that Henry might do another stand strong or another button, he tried to counter hit it with stand strong and actually ended up hitting him. That low forward is actually deceptively good for Elena. It's a very good low poke. It's a true low, and there's that red parry. See, it's not too hard to get that. There's that red parry, and I think he could have done low forward. I don't think SPD would have hit from this range. He did low strong instead, but low forward would have been a better option because it would have gotten you the knockdown. Again, just trying to do that move, and that move is so bad, dude. If I were Adrian, I would let Henry do that move all day and then just SPD punish. Yeah, and this is the trouble that Hugo has in this matchup. Is once Elena starts going wild, it's very hard for Hugo to contend because he doesn't have any buttons up close that are going to be of much consequence to Elena. And he doesn't have an anti-air. Oh my god, that was so far. Look at this. Hugo's normals reach so far. Look at that, dude. I don't even think that comboed. Henry was just insistent on hitting buttons. Yeah, he could have survived if he just blocked, but he didn't. So Adrian ends up taking that round. Nice air to air. That's a good air to air option for Elena. It's neutral jump roundhouse. Hugo can actually challenge some of these buttons in the air with his early jump splash. If you anticipate that Elena's going to, here we go, going to go air to air with you, you can do an early splash and it will beat most of her buttons in the air. But you have to do it early. Here is that crescent kick that she has, the EX version of it. None of these are safe, guys. Not any version of that move is safe. The light, the mid, the heavy, or the EX. They're all very unsafe. And actually in this instance, I wish you would have gone with Gigas. You know, being able to land Gigas versus, you know, using it for the optimal finish or something is not necessarily, especially in this matchup, it's not necessarily something you want to pass up. If you have the opportunity to land Gigas, you should do it. It's worth it. It'll give you the life lead. It'll give you, you know, all the momentum. And, you know, since you're already sitting on a game, you might as well go for it at this point. If it can give you a chance to wrap up the round afterwards, even better. So if you had gone for Gigas in that respect, I think her life bar would have been maybe a little above where her stun bar currently is. Nice low forward. Oh no, just too desperate for it at that point. See, what ended up happening, right, was he didn't use it when he should have, and because, you know, he was so desperate to get it now, he ends up wasting it, which is, it's devastating to a Hugo player because, you know, if you can make them waste Gigas, they have to earn all that bar back, and it is not easy for Hugo to get a bunch of meter that way. You know, and it's essentially they lose that threat of being lethal whenever they're up close. That was a super good punish from Henry there. So I like that neutral jump. He knew that it was coming and punished immediately with that. That's optimal. That's very good from Henry. That jump in far roundhouse is so good. Not a whole lot that Hugo can do about it. There's that sweep, perfect spacing. This is basically the game that you want to play. Poke and run, poke and run. Poke, get out of there, go back. Oh, okay, that was dangerous. That sweep he can SPD, and if he has Gigas, he can Gigas this sweep. That is not safe. That's very unsafe. There's that stand strong. So Henry needs to chill out a little bit. So after this exchange where he hits him out of the air, you know, he's doing the poke and run game. Right here is where he should just back up, but he keeps pressing forward, and you know his health bar is at an E, and because he keeps pressing forward and Adrian is adjusting, he's going to lose a lot of health for it now. See, he already lost more than half of what he had, and now he's in danger of dying because one SPD will kill him. This you can actually just block. If you did the roundhouse version, you can get a low forward, or you can get an SPD because she's super negative after that. I don't know why Adrian did this EX Lariat. There was absolutely no reason to do this. And in fact, I think Elena can duck that and won't even get hit by it. So in that instance, you know, I wish Adrian would have played a little more patient. He probably could have taken the round if he had played a little bit more patient, but instead he just ends up giving it to Nero, who punishes with super. Now, if you had known your combos, in this instance, you can do low strong, EX spin scythe, the EX version of the crescent kick, the forward crescent kick that she does, and then an uppercut. So you could have actually killed him and got some meter back without using your full bar. But because he doesn't really know the combos, he opted for the easy punish. And he's gonna head into the next round with less meter than he should. That was a nice counter poke. This towards forward, or no, I'm sorry, yeah, towards forward is an overhead, meaning that you cannot block it low, and it has a little bit of recovery. So he actually whiff punished with low strong there. That was pretty good. There was that. I think he got a SPD off that. That's smart. He realized that Henry was constantly waking up with attacks, so he just walked and blocked and baited it. Good punish from Adrian there. So he tried to hit him with this big nasty setup, where you whiff universal overhead just outside of the range, land in front of them, and then immediately go into SPD. Because your natural reaction when you see universal overhead, oh, I should block high. But if it doesn't make contact with you, as soon as they land and you realize that they didn't hit you, it's already too late because they're going into Gigas. He did not have Gigas in that instance though, so he didn't have to worry about it. But I think Henry's natural reaction was to jump anyway. Yeah, see? Big Nasty has us all trained. We all know. Oh, you see that? Oh, fuck that, dude. I'd rather eat the backbreaker. Even Henry knows. So, and there's that instance of the roundhouse towards, yeah, I think this is towards? Yeah, towards being airborne. So what you can do is just wait a sec if you're Hugo, and then you can Gigas. Or SPD. And now he's just eating a bunch of buttons. They're just trying to combat each other with buttons at this point. In this instance, if you chase that jump back right here with a fierce, you will hit her. So Hugo's jumping fierce hits very far and low. I wish Adrian would have realized that anytime he jumps in with body splash, Henry just eats it because he doesn't realize that Elena doesn't have an anti-air outside of EX upper to contend with that, or super. All of her anti-air buttons lose to that splash. And that was sick. I didn't even recognize that he did that, but he did the universal overhead link just in the right space, got the super confirm off of that, was able to take the match off that. That's fucking sick. Okay, Henry. So, in general, he just kind of exploited that match, did not play optimally, and seems to not really know any real combos with this character. He's just kind of poking and running, which you can definitely do in this matchup, but in most matchups, it's not really going to work out long-term for Elena. Let's switch over now and go to the next match. This is going to be a match in losers again versus Big Mark, who's going to be playing Ken, and you'll see how Ken deals with the Elena matchup a little better.
I don't know, at the right moment.
Oh, let me mute this commentary. So sorry guys, stage is red as fuck. Look at that low strong anti-air. That was fucking sick. He just gets in range. He knows right there. Low strong Emperor punch. Text to throw, and he's just keeping his distance and building meter. Mark has a I don't know if it's necessarily a bad habit, but he does have a habit of jumping directly at you, specifically to parry your attacks. But too often he doesn't really get anything from it. So from these exchanges he gets some meter, but he doesn't really get a conversion off of it. So you know, in this instance he wasn't ready for the second parry, and ended up just eating damage for it that he otherwise wouldn't need to if he just blocked and shoryu'd, or just waited and shoryu'd. One thing that Ken can do in this match, kind of liberally, is if your Elena is very active with jumps and overhead specials and the crescent kicks and, you know, just going ham with buttons in general, you can just shoryu kind of liberally. Like light DP does wonders, and this is one of the few matchups for Ken where he doesn't need to do a Kara light DP to get the second one mid screen. He can just do 2 regular light DPs and it'll hit Elena. I wish he wouldn't use these X fireballs. Right here, he just wasted meter for no reason. Mark going for that red parry. Oh, could have got a second one there. Low forward. He's wasting so much meter on these EX fireballs and he doesn't need to. Oh, here, so this is one thing that I want you know, our scene to kind of get better at in general. If you parry this, instead of going for the trip guard or going for throw, like we traditionally, most of us, including myself, do, if you get this parry, just go for shoryu, especially in the corner, especially versus Elena. You can get 2 free DPs, and that's a ton of damage. You'll also probably get the meter for super at that point, in which case the Oki gives you a stronger option. There's that early DP that I was talking about. Even if it trades in your favor. EX DP. You can DP her out of that. There's another one he could have killed with that second shoryu. Nice. There's that trip guard with the low sweep that I was talking about earlier. It's very, very low to the ground, kind of deceptive. And Henry just opting for YOLO Dolo. Just nowhere is that going to hit. There was nothing it was going to make in contact with. Yo, what's up, Humpy? So here he just needs to wait an anti-air. There's that EX spin scythe move. Doesn't get a follow-up. Double shore you. Oh no, too late on that link, but Henry just hitting buttons anyway. Can reversal super that actually. So Henry, if you see this later, whenever you block a sweep and you have, well, I don't know if SA1, but for sure if you have SA2, that will punish that. You just do reversal super and that will punish that sweep. And since he's crouching, he eats more damage. Nice air to air from Mark, very late. Throws her, and that's going to be the match for Mark. So I think he kind of realizes Elena's not really going to work against Mark. This matchup in particular is very rough for Elena. So he's going to go and switch to his actual main, Necro. He's using Magnetic Storm, which isn't too bad. For a long time I used this super myself, just because I wasn't aware of all the advantages and ways that Necro could use Electric Snake. It really is his best super in pretty much every matchup. The only matchup where you might want to use SA1 over SA3 is versus Hugo. So that way you have an added element of anti-airing to him, or whiff punishing. So this matchup can be pretty difficult. This is something that I want Henry to stop doing entirely. Henry, why do you do this? Why do you full screen drill with light kick drill? If you're gonna beta shore you, do the heavy one. If you're going to drill in, do a shallow medium kick drill from up close, so that way they don't have enough time to react with Shoryu. Mark has plenty of time to react with Fierce Shoryu in that instance. That jump strong wasn't going to hit anything, so that was a pretty bad normal. Eats a fat crouching combo for that. That was just a random DP. That was a nice combo though. Here, what Henry should do is he should be walking him to the corner and then waiting for Ken to do something. At this point, you've got screen control, you've got ground control, you've got meter, so he has to respect your super. In this instance, you don't want to back up too much and allow him an easy out, because then he can just EX Tatsu out. What you want to do is you want him to jump at you, which is precisely what Mark does. At this point, anti-air super. That's literally what you have the super for. Or if you have the reactions for it, do Fierce Electricity, and if he starts to parry it, then super. But it's very unlikely that Mark is going to do that in this situation. Yeah, that trip guard really wasn't going to work out because he didn't hit a button. So Mark just kind of opting. I think that was a super punish there. Unfortunately, he just got jab. There's that light kick drill, which is fucking horrendous. Look at this shit, dude. You're so vulnerable. You're so vulnerable to anything. Mark could have hit you with literally anything. That's such a bad move. If there's one thing, oh no, I don't know what that was. That was a complete waste of meter. He just did jab and then just EX lariat for no reason. That was kind of sick though. It kind of put him up in a position to do another jab lariat, almost like a frame trap, and then jab reset him. This is dangerous though, because Ken sees you're already in the air and he can shore you. And this is another reason why I want Henry to use SA3. If you'll notice in this set, he almost never uses super. He just burns meter like nothing on EXs that like 95% of the time never land. That was a good super. I mean, that was a good anti-air, and it actually gave him the fierce follow-up, so that's smart. It's good that he knows that. In this instance, that wasn't too bad to do the drill actually while he's doing that, because Mark was neutral jumping and coming on the way down, so they actually intersected. So that was the one instance in which this move isn't complete garbage. But good luck recreating that, you know, over the course of over a few matches. And he should have just gone for the super chip out here. As soon as he landed, you land before him. You can force him to air parry it, and it might work out in your favor because you might end up behind him and he has got to parry the other way. Instead, he went for a low short, and it looks like Mark was just trying to hit buttons in between. Henry going for the disrespect because he just barely scraped by a win on Mark. Again, there's another EX with absolutely no hope of landing, and now he's got to build his meter back up to get super. The whole reason you have SA1 is to make people hesitant in approaching you. If they feel that, you know, you have reactions, you know, if they throw out a button, SA1. If they're in range and they jump, SA1. If they cross you up, SA1. If they neutral jump, SA1, right? You want to make people respect the super, but if you're just wasting it on EX, they're never going to respect it. And if I were Mark, in this situation, if you know Henry's just going to do that, just wait and then either crouch fierce or light DP, and you're going to get free damage every time because he hasn't learned not to do this. So it is also incumbent on you, Mark, to teach your opponent, hey man, this isn't good, I got to show you why, and I got to, you know, force you to stop doing this. That jump medium kick, I'm not exactly sure what that was meant to do. That is a really wonky normal and super situation specific. You're almost never going to hit that on anyone ever. Back throws. So this is just the button storm. Henry gets in this rhythm where he feels like he can just kind of hit as many buttons as he wants. That was a really sick punish because super wouldn't have killed. And the Fierce Electricity did enough damage, but also a lot of stun to get him close to a kill. I wish Henry would just stop using the EXs and play a little more patient. You know, if you just slow the match down right here, you'll do a lot better. You can actually reversal super this too. When he does this this Cobra kick, this overhead special, on block, you can just super this. Where is it? Oh no, hold on. Is it right there? Just reversal super. Anytime you see that, reversal super. Mark using EX meters for no reason. Stand strong punish. You can just, I'm telling you, if you ever see that and you're a Shoto, just crouch fierce. That was a decent anti-air. He should have waited a little bit longer for that super. Could have got more off of it. Right here, you give him time to react to it, right? Because he's not going to get sucked in yet. He's not in range. Basically, where those sparks are the area in which he'll get sucked into that super. So if he's not in that area, that means that he doesn't have to parry before the flash. And you want him to have to do that because you get to control more or less, you know, his range if he's in range for getting sucked into the super. So he's got to respect it and kind of anticipate the super if he wants to parry it in the air. But if you do this, all he has to do is wait until he lands on it. So it's just like a regular anti-air in that case. It loses the added benefit of forcing him to parry before the super flash. Meaty, well, somewhat meaty heavy drill, which is good. That's good. And then Henry hits him with another taunt for extra disrespect. Alright, so at this point, Mark needs to adjust to kind of the chaos that Henry's throwing at him, and he definitely needs to anti-air more. If you anti-air Henry, it's very hard for him to get in with Necro. He doesn't have much of a footsies ground game with that character. He kind of just wants to get in through jumps and then just start doing like chaos loops where he's just throwing buttons in a random sequence in a random order to try and like throw off your parries. And again, you don't need to challenge with a low button. You can literally just shore you. If Mark is focused on anti-airing here, he doesn't even need to move. Low forward EX Hado, not too bad. Nice overhead. There you go. And actually, he hit Henry out of the startup of this Snake Fang overhead that he was going to do. Or I forget the name of the move. But yeah, this overhead move that he was going to do, he hit him out of the startup, which is why it reset him. I think that's the Snake Fang. And you can reversal super it on block, especially at that range. Henry, if you anticipate that they're going to jump out, instead of doing that, you could do back fierce. Now, against EX Tatsu, it's kind of tricky because it may trade. So, you know, just kind of be aware that that's something that does happen sometimes. And it seems to be kind of random. Oh, that could have been in this range right here. If you do jump strong, the downward angled punch, you can land in super and it'll connect. But instead he does fierce. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Good anti-air. And this is where Henry gets in trouble, right? Because he sees Necros do this, right? So he's like, "Oh, okay, this is a good option. You know, I'm gonna do this." But then he doesn't realize that he did it too high, and he doesn't realize that he can't just follow up with whatever he wants because he's actually negative. So in this situation, you're actually negative. Your opponent can throw you, they can shore you, they can you know, super if you're gonna hit a button. You know, they have different options here. In fact, they can throw out if you want to. If they know that you're gonna throw, they can just jump out. If they know that you're gonna hit a button, they can parry. Like, they have all sorts of options in this situation, and it's actually not ideal to do it at that height. So he ends up getting thrown out of whatever he was going to follow up with. Mark smartly backs up because he realizes Henry, you know, has meter and he could reversal super at any moment. And Henry, not being patient at all, decides to use meter. So now he has no super. And trying to get that meter back is exactly what killed him. You see, he's trying to build meter there, and then he tries to... I don't necessarily know that sweep trip guard has really, if it's really even worth it for Necro. I don't think it is. You're better off sticking to traditional anti-airs like electric shock or super or back fierce or down back fierce or even low strong or maybe some sort of anti-air. Like, you want to use your traditional anti-airs most of the time. Trip guard really isn't going to do too much to you. Or trip guard sweep isn't going to do too much to players, and it's not going to get you a lot of mileage. There, Mark wisely saved his meter. He could have supered off that roundhouse and just opted to go with low forward. And there's that trade. See, now it looks like Mark is looking to anti-air a little bit more. So all he needs to do is wait for Henry to jump. Henry does not block or parry that jump in, so he eats a full combo. I don't like that Mark does this. Mark, if you get this advantage, don't jump in, don't put yourself in the corner. Don't do that, dude. Just stay where you are, hold that corner position, force Henry to make decisions, force him to spend meter. He's already proven to you that anytime he's in any sort of pressure situation, he's going to spend bar, whether it be, you know, supers or EXs. He's already proven that he's going to just waste meter freely if you put him under pressure. So all you have to do is just even give the slightest hint that you're going to put him under pressure, and he'll crack. Unfortunately, Mark ends up putting himself in the corner, which could have been really, really bad. You can actually end up losing the match very fast versus Necro when he has you cornered. In particular, this matchup, because Necro has he's got a lot of juggles that he can do on Shotos. There, I'm not sure if Henry's aware, but after this reset, you can force him. You can either cancel into super for the combo, which scales really hard. You can reset and do a super, and he's forced to parry, which also scales really hard. Or you can intimate that you're going to go for, you know, some sort of follow up and then wait for his reaction. Here you can get another reset too off of this lariat on the airborne state. If you do a jab or a back strong. Or even a crouch strong, that would have reset Ken, and then would have put him in another 50-50 situation. And there, you know, all you know, you've already trained your opponent to block. Instead of continuing to assault them with buttons, you know, endlessly, if your opponent is just blocking, what is the natural reaction, right? Like, what is the way to overcome blocking? Throw them. And if you want them to open up, you know, you get them to whiff throws. And that's third strike in a nutshell, right? If they're just blocking, get them to open up by throwing them. And if they're teching the throws, fake the throw to make them whiff a throw and then punish them. Here, Mark did this right thing, and all he had to do was super punish, which is the right punish. And there it is. He did another special. I'm pretty sure if he had meter in this instance, he would have tried to use the EX version of this, which at that distance, you don't want to ever use that move, especially not raw like that. Mark has given you no indication that, you know, he's going to crouch block in that instance. So, you know, I don't know why you throw that move out there. It was better to just be patient and kind of poke and run until you get your meter back. So that was a decisive victory that time for Mark. A little adjustments of being patient and you know, a little better meter management, and then a focus on anti-airing is essentially what made the difference. So if you're looking at this back, Henry, and you're wondering, well, what do I need to do? You need to do a few things. If you're gonna play Elena, learn her combos. Right, she really only has one: low strong, EX spin scythe, EX crescent kick, into roundhouse upper, or you can do EX upper if that's what you want to do. That really is the only thing that she has. Outside of that, maybe a jump in combo into something, into uppercut, jump in roundhouse low strong uppercut. Her combos are fairly simple. Poke and run strategy works really well with her, but just be cognizant that you don't want to use EX spin side outside of a combo. As far as Necro goes, way better meter management. If you have super, make them respect super. Work on, you know, reaction supers, work on anti-air supers, work on anti-airing in general. Low strong, back fierce electric blast, jab electric blast, or I'm sorry, not electric blast, electric shock. Maybe down fierce, down back fierce, air to air, strong. It hits right in front of him when he's neutral jumping. Neutral jump roundhouse. You know, jump back strong even. You know, jump back strong if you don't think that they're anticipating it. Air to air drills, but not the light version. Do the medium version or do the heavy version. If you're trying to bait a DP, do the heavy version, so that way you land pretty much right where you jumped. In some cases, people may try to like EX Tatsu, you air to air out of a drill, but you definitely don't want to do the light drill, that especially from full screen or 2/3 screen, that they have so much time to anti-air, so much time to react, so much time to just punish you for that, and you get nothing out of that exchange. Even if you hit someone with that, you're still negative, and they can still DP you, they can still parry and punish, or they can, even if they get hit, you know, they can do whatever they want. So it's not a good move. You should remove that from your repertoire immediately. And then maybe try and focus on learning some of the SA3 stuff. Back strong into super as a true confirm. You do have enough time to really confirm that. Low short into super off of you know, off of a far low short that you buffer. You basically want to throw low short out in a range where it won't hit them unless it counter hits. In which case it's not a bad idea to buffer super behind it. Maybe you know, universal overhead into super, or target combo into super, which is I think it's back short into neutral stand strong, and that stand strong you can cancel into super, and then just raw stand strong into super. It was a really good option versus Shotos. It beats their low forwards and their sweeps at certain ranges, and it forces them to kind of play footsies with you in a more honest way on the ground. Particularly in this matchup versus Ken, SA3 would have been a great option. It reversal punishes sweeps on block, shoryus. You can even kind of punish full screen Hadokens if you don't mind trading. You know, and it does a ton of stun. It gives you a good position to get a mix up afterwards, since you get the hard knockdown, and you know, obviously if you get it in the corner, then you can get stun juggles. But yeah, that's it. Those are the only two matches that I have. I wish there was some more matches that I could do analysis on for Henry, but I think in general, you know, if he applies himself and you know, focuses in on, you know, combos, execution, meter management, and spacing, he could potentially do one of the 3 challenges that I set up for him this year. And if you weren't here for that earlier, that's either beat Big Mark in a tournament, beat Jay Win in a tournament or get a top 3 finish at Game of Dreams. Because he was saying, I want to do my best to try and make Jazzy season 2 hype, this season. And I was telling him, I was like, well, simply, all you have to do is just, perform a little better. You don't have to win a tournament. You don't have to beat anyone super godlike. I mean, if you do, that's sick. But, these incremental goals are, how you can kind of benchmark progress and how you can kind of improve incrementally, right? You just set a goal for yourself, something, relatively modest. I want to beat this player, or I want to, place higher in a tournament than I usually do, or I want to get this combo. There's a new guy in our scene who was asking me, like, what should I focus on, while I'm learning this game? And I told him, yo, what's up, Rekai? I told him, basically, you want to not really, in the beginning, care too much about wins and losses. Obviously, wins feel good and losses feel bad, and that's always going to be true. So instead of focusing on wins and losses to kind of, benchmark your progress, what you want to do is you want to focus on actual progress, whether that's be, landing combos, consistently parrying something, consistently punishing something, maybe successfully defending against something that you typically don't, beating a certain player in a tournament. Yeah, exactly. Play to learn. Win or lose. Set micro goals. Those are good habits to form. So that way, let's say you have a tournament where you're used to going like 3-2 or 2-2 or 4-2, right? And that's how you typically perform in a tournament. It can be kind of discouraging if that's what you're continually getting, because you're like, well, I'm always going to be 5th or 6th or 7th place, man. I just can't seem to crack that rotation, right? But if you're only measuring your growth by that, then it's going to be kind of frustrating and it can be disheartening. But if you're measuring it by, I may have gotten 7th again, but I did offer a much, tougher challenge to this player, or I did deal with this situation a little better. I did get that one parry, or I did get that one combo, or I got that one punish that I never get. That's a better way of measuring your progress, right? Because the more you can do those things consistently, the more it will translate towards actual wins and better tournament performances. I meet a lot of people easily getting disheartened at 3S meets where they feel the level is too high. Yeah, that was one of the things that I had to tell this guy. I told him, before we even played, we were talking Third Strike, and he's around our age group, which is around like early 30s, mid 30s, and he was telling me, I just feel like this game has been out so long that that it's kind of hard to get into. And I told him, I was like, Third Strike can be hard to get into, but it is very rewarding, and it's easy to get disheartened when you play people at higher skill levels, because the skill gaps in this game are vast and wide. Like, I bodied that guy for hours with multiple characters, and I had to give him perspective and tell him, I was like, look, man, like it's not because I'm this godlike player. I've just been playing longer than you. That same session that you've had, that you just had, where you got bodied for a good long while and you didn't get a win, and that person was beating you with multiple characters. That's happened to me more times than I can remember. I've lost more matches in this game than I can remember. I've definitely lost more matches than I've won more matches, and I've won a ton of matches in this game. I've been playing it competitively for about 7 years now, six and a half, something like that. So I told him, I was like, just keep that perspective, right? Like, for every guy that's godlike that you'll come across, there's another 2 or 3 that are even more godlike than that guy. So just kind of keep that perspective and don't take wins and losses too hard. Obviously, go back and study your film. Do what I did. Analyze your matches, especially your losses. Try and sit there and figure out, what did I do wrong? What am I not punishing? What am I not doing? Like, in particular in this tournament, I was using Chun-Li for the first time in tournament, and I have absolutely no frame of reference for Chun-Li. I don't have any Chuns that I train against. I haven't really used her before, and I wanted to do it to get this experience, right? And one of the things that I learned that I did not know is that Makoto's sweep is -6 on block, and Chun-Li can punish it with reversal super. So I did learn something in that, and I've been playing this game for 6.5 years, so there's always something to learn. Every time I met Yas from France, my goal is to try and win, but avoid losing 2-0. So when I went to Japan, my goal is to win at least one round against each top player. Yeah, you know, it's not necessarily about botting people, right? Like, if guys have been playing this game and putting in the work for 20 years, like 20 something years now at this point, right? 21. Um, then it's going to be very hard to just go in with your 2 or 3 years of experience and expect to really compete with those guys. But one thing that you can do is you can, you know, look at every opportunity as, especially versus, you know, seasoned, knowledgeable players, as an experience and as a way to, you know, gain knowledge and insight from those players. Particularly if you're asking questions like, "What should I do there?" or "How do I deal with this?" or you know, what should my character be doing? How does my character play in this matchup? What is the matchup, you know, play like? Where can I find resources on how to view, how to deal with this? Whether it be watching first to 10 sets between Japanese players, watching American players, figuring out tendencies, stuff like that. You know, those are questions that people can ask that will be a lot more helpful than, you know, how do I stop losing to this character? That's a very, you know, one-dimensional way of looking at things. Anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to end the stream here. I might be back in a little bit and do some more Third Strike, but I want to upload this to YouTube so that way Henry has it for later and he can watch back and, you know, look at some of the analysis and apply that to his game. But thanks for tuning in, guys. I will catch you guys probably later.